off to college that he would hit every red light, and that was God's way of punishing him for his sin. And I said, Kyle, the only thing wrong with that is if you sit there long enough, they turn green. That's not God punishing you. That's a computer in the ground that's flipping the lights to green so you can take turns with people. That's not God trying to punish you. I was on a Saturday night before I was going to preach a big sermon one time, and my water heater broke. Is that God? No. It's an old water heater. That's what it is. And we've got this idea that everything, everywhere, somehow God trying to send us some kind of subliminal message. And I want you to listen to this. These are not punishments. They are part of everyday life. Pets die. Cars break. Companies close. People move. Accidents happen. They are part of life. That's the truth. It's not a spiritual act. My water heater broke. It wore out. Now listen, if our theology is lived out, that's our worship, if it's lived out by our response to our crisis, and we go around actually believing that God causes or allows everything, then what we do is we're confused. And we're confused because we'll never have an answer. And what you can depend on is the who. Let me just explain. There was a girl in Orlando this weekend. I think it was like Wednesday or maybe it was last Friday. She came home late from the prom. She stayed out past her curfew like an hour and a half too late. And when she pulled into her driveway, her neighbor's house was on fire. And so she ran over, knocked on the door, got the guy and his wife out of the house, and then the lady that was saved went and had a baby. Did you see this story in the news? And so the girl, the high school girl, is being heralded as a rescuer, as a hero. And they interviewed the lady holding the brand new baby, and the lady said, well, obviously this was a God thing. God obviously ordained for her to be there so that we could be saved. Now, been shot in the head. Now think. So you're telling me that God ordained for her to disobey her parents, which that's against what God says, so that rather than step back and go, you know what? What an amazing blessing that she just happened to be there. It's unfortunate she broke the rules, but boy, are we fortunate that she came and knocked on our door and got us out. It's a whole different way of thinking. And it's not more faith, it's just a different kind of faith. And what I want you to understand is, we've swallowed this idea that God does or allows everything. That means everything is His fault. One way or the other, that it's all His fault. Could have saved, but didn't, punish me. One or the other. One or the other. Now listen to this. I know this is a stretch for some of you, but don't just blow it off. I want you to listen to this. If God causing or allowing stuff is not the issue. That's not the issue. The issue is, who's in control? And the fact is, no matter what happens, God is still in control. Now, if God does not control everything, for example, He did not make me eat that second bowl of homemade ice cream last night. He did not make me do that. I chose to do that. He doesn't tell me where to buy my gas. He can't control the price of gas. He doesn't tell me what clothes to wear. He has no interest in the Super Bowl. Shock! Okay? He doesn't intervene in my golf game. I've prayed while the ball's still in the air and it still sinks when it hits the water, because God's not going to intervene just because I prayed. God does not care about the elections. He's not interested because He's interested in one thing. I came here to redeem mankind from their sin. That is His mission. All the other stuff is just fluff to Him. Now, some things that happen to us are natural events. Earthquakes, cyclones, hurricanes. And those things were set in motion when God created the earth. Those things began to happen even way back then. They're not punishment. It's not an arrow that's aimed at your heart with a message attached. So when it hits you, God's trying to tell us something. What He's trying to say is, you know what? When hot air and cold air hit, they make tornadoes. And they happen in Kansas. And people die. And it's unfortunate. But the question isn't, did God cause it or allow it? The question is, who is still in charge? And if the answer is still the same, and the answer is God, all the stuff gets in the way, and it takes our eye off the ball, and we think we've been shot, but it's not the truth. God is still on the throne. And that's the answer to the question. Why do bad things happen? I don't know, but God's still in charge. That's the answer. Now listen to this. The mindset for us to have it all sorted out, and you have to have the answer. And if we believe that everything that happens is caused or allowed by God, you are going to spend your life in the proverbial King James Cracker Jack box looking for the decoder ring so that you can understand what God is trying to say with all these messages. But if you sit back and go, you know what? I trust Him. I don't get it, but I trust Him. Set your life free. Instead of walking around going, what's He trying to tell me now? What's the great line from Bruce Almighty? I see God as a kid with a magnifying glass and I'm an ant. That's not the way God functions. God's heart is much more tender and much more loving than that. The mindset for us to understand is all about us. It's a worship form that's about us. It's about us being able to put God in some kind of explainable box that when we want, we can pull Him out and go, yep, that's the answer. Look, right there in my box. It's all about us so that we can somehow feel safe and we can feel secure and that we've got the answers. We don't have the answers. I was with a brother 3 weeks ago. He sat down with me. He says, Tom, this is what I believe about God. A certain doctrinal position. I said, that's cool. I said, I believe this. And we'll believe everything on the paper together except where these two lines hit, right there. And I said to him, I said, the point is, love God, love people. That's the point. This isn't the point. This is created by man. This is created by man. And you know what? I looked at him and I said, you know what? You know why I believe this? I said, because that's what I was taught as a kid. And I said, and I'm comfortable enough in looking at you across the table and telling you, I don't know if it's right. Because there's not one of us that's going to get to heaven and God go, yep, you guys got it right. Every point, you guys are right. It's not going to happen. This isn't the point. This is the point. Love me. Follow me. Love people. That's the point. Sometimes we go through the what stuff and then the why stuff and we eventually end up at who. And I have a question for you. How big is your God? Really? Oh, He's big. Oh, He's real big. Well, I have a question. Are you comfortable with not being able to understand everything about God? I mean, is God so big that you're okay with saying, I don't know? Are you comfortable with not being able to have a pat answer for everything everybody asks you? Because that's how big God is. Because just the time you think you've got Him figured out, He'll mess you up. But that's just the way He is. Now keep in mind that the culture who's asking us this very question, how big is your God? They're leery of every answer we give them. They're like, oh, I don't know. They're always skeptical. They're always looking for ways to find holes in our story. And the danger is that if we have a small God, we have a small story. If you have a small God in a small box, you have a very small story, and that's not very attractive. That's why they make movies that are, an hour and a half long, and then they make some movies that are 3 hours long, is because the story is bigger. And when the story is bigger, it's more captivating. And the same thing is true with our understanding of God. And our theology, whether you're a Calvinist or an Arminian, whether you're premillennial, amillennial, all of those theologies are just simply ways for you and I to be able to put God in a really nice box with a really nice bow so that we can say, I got Him figured out. That's all it is. It's a way for us to be able to understand what we believe. Now I want you to listen. God cannot be tamed. God cannot be tamed. In the very first Narnia movie, and of course it's in the book, what's the little girl's name? Sally? Susan? Susan. Susie. She says to the one, Lucy, she says, can I ask you about the king? Is he safe? And the boy says, oh no, he's not safe, but he is good. Now you listen to me. God is not safe. There's not a thing about Him that's safe. He's so radical, He wants to come in and mess you up and change you. That's not safe. God wants to flip your world upside down. That's not safe. God wants to redeem mankind from the pits of hell. That's not safe. That's not like you're going up and buying somebody lollipops. God is not safe, but He is good. And the truth is, there are some things that I don't need to know. When I'm going through my mess, I don't need to know the truth. I just need to keep my eyes on Him. Have you ever wondered, what if God really answered all of our